Hello and welcome to INVESTORTODAY.CA. I'm your host, Dave Glover. INVESTORTODAY.CA is brought to you in conjunction with RBL Communications, your online IR professionals. It's Thursday, the 27th of September. We're coming to you live from the Toronto Resource Investment Conference, and I'm being joined by Mr. Tim Gallagher, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope, Tim. And Tim is the CEO and Chairman of Excalibur Resources Corp., which trades on the CNSX under XBR, on the Frank under X9CN, and on the OTC EXCFF. Jim, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Great story. Now, today's the 27th, which is very significant to the viewers because this company has just gone into production down in Mexico on their Casanova project. Big area of play, isn't it, Tim?
Absolutely, absolutely. Zacatecas is a state in the center of Mexico where there's lots of companies that you would know, but it has a 500-year history. We've got the richest man in the world, Carlos Slim, has got 4 mines in that state. The biggest Canadian project in Mexico is Penasquito, owned by Goldcorp. It's just north of us, so it's the place to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? We want to focus on the big news, which is the fact that you've just gone into production. Can we talk a little bit about the prehistory on that and how you got yourself to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's almost our anniversary. 2 years ago, we signed this deal with a gentleman who's been down there for 40 years. He's consolidated the area. It's an old gold bonanza district called Pinos. Mm-hmm. The Cornish miners mined at least a couple million ounces going back 1870 to 1910. And so there's a real history there in terms of workings. There's 50 shafts. There's the old Cornish chimneys. And so it's sort of evident that this needed to come back. So our timing was good, and our change in strategy to focus on going into production is really the signature event. So really the last couple of years has been getting the permits, starting the construction, getting the equipment there, and about a month ago we finally got the explosive permit from the military, and that allowed us to order the explosives and start blasting this week.
Right. Well, now how difficult is it in working with the government down in Mexico, especially these days?
Well, I think all governments around the world, including ours, take time to go through the process, and I think it's fair. It does seem time-consuming when you're in business and you're trying to get things done. But honestly, we submitted our environmental permit, I think, June a year ago. We had the site visit August, and by November we had the permit. So that allowed us to basically start the construction and put the equipment together.
Fantastic. Can we talk about the size of and scope of this project?
Yeah, so this was really about just getting into production in a small way to start. And in essence, we were targeting a 250-ton per day plant. And we're trying to use the used equipment rather than the long lead time of new equipment, trying to do it under the Mexico cost base rather than the sort of the Canadian or American geo where all the costs are multiplied by 10. So that's really been our signature. But of course we're taking advantage of our partner's history, speaking the language, having the individuals that know where to source things and get things done much more economically than we could.
So in this current market, I mean, anyone would say that this is a success story here at Excalibur, isn't it?
Well, yeah, we've been really lucky and fortunate in terms of our timing to stand out because, I mean, in essence, we've gone up 300% over the last year, and the last year hasn't been that nice for most juniors.
Right.
But our theory and strategy has been to break out from the pack. And if you say that really there's less than 10% of the companies are actually in production, then just to get into production in the first place, already puts you, ahead and in the top 10, right?
Absolutely. Can we talk about what is expected in terms of yield?
Well, in terms of production, we're based on the math of the property. It's an erratic gold situation with silver, and so we're targeting essentially a 10 or 20,000 ounce operation. And that sounds like a big range, but the idea really is just because it's erratic gold, and instead of drilling, to basically use the bulk sample testing to generate cash flow to advance the property. It was just a different way to get to the end rather than just spending all your money up front on a 43-101 and lots of drilling. This is in this environment with gold at $700. In fact, the average Mexican mine is only $300 plus dollars per ounce, so it's a very lucrative business. I mean, on average, the industry is about $600-700. So if you can't make money with $1,000 profit, then So the simplest way I can say it is if we just did 100 tons a day, and over the first month, we get 3,000 tons. If we end up getting a third of an ounce, that's 1,000 ounces, right? So you're saying that's 1.7 million from a company nobody's heard of.
That's right.
So that's the game plan.
Well, and now this is the biggest deal here. Obviously, is the going into production in Mexico, but you also have 2 projects here in Canada as well, don't you?
Correct. So when we first got involved with the company, they were had an option on some properties in British Columbia, and they'd staked a very large unexplored greenstone belt east of the old Matabi mine in northwest Ontario at Sturgeon Lake. Right. So there's lots of potential there, but as soon as you get your eye focused on the cash flow in a business that's dependent on finance,